We'll see which direction they go in, if it's ban out the Scylla or not. Picks and bans on the way here. Left side will be SpaceStation Gaming.
For that first pick, let's see
Look
what
at that logo.
option that they go for.
Look at that logo.
I honestly thought that at first it was like a little controller inside an astronaut helmet.
I see that. I thought it was just an emoji. I thought it was Jigz being funny. I'm dead.
Did he make that?
No, so SpaceStation Gaming is actually very interesting. SpaceStation is new to esports. They come from a background of social media, with Snapchat, YouTube, etc., and they're jumping into esports, and it honestly seems like a really earnest try. I'm really excited for these guys. So SpaceStation doing it right, getting the first win, and picking Susano. Everything looks good to me.
Homiefe is going to love his time here in the second game. This god is going to be so obnoxious to deal with if you're on Team Allegiance. But picking up the ISIS here is very important because the wing gust doesn't get affected by pulls or knockbacks.
Terra here also going to be selected for Team Allegiance, likely in the hands of NeiruMah. Geb, the selection for SpaceStation Gaming's Jigz. I don't think we're going to see it solo anytime soon. And before anybody can ban it out comes the Scylla for SpaceStation. Allegiance had banned out tankier options, Fafnir and Raven.
And this is what SpaceStation does so well. They know what works for them. Scylla worked game 1. It's definitely going to work here in game 2, especially now that Jigz is playing the Geb, more set up for andinster.
So Allegiance go the Nemesis. Why would they ban the Raven? Wouldn't you want to play into tankier options if you know that you're going to go Nemesis? I understand the Fafnir ban. That's more aggressive. But the Raven, if I'm Nemesis, I want a tanky jungle.
I think Allegiance just adapted on the fly. They didn't initially probably want to pick the Nemesis right off the bat, but because there's a Geb already on the table, they're picking this Nemesis, probably trying to really burst him out of the table.
Also, Weekend. Sun Wukong, the selection for Team Allegiance. Interesting here. Interesting here, actually, totally. And this is one of those teams that has wiggle room. Nemesis solo is a CycloneSpin pick. The Sun Wukong jungle is a reality. We have some ambiguity here. I think it's more likely to be Nemesis in the hand of Weekend, because Weekend, but still, I think there is a little bit of wiggle room. Cernunnos to Hunter for Allegiance.
I think Allegiance are really testing the waters out of fineokay. With so many solo bans, they really wanted to try to see what he was going to pick. Picking this Amaterasu is going to be relatively good, though, for him, considering that Sun Wukong doesn't apply as much pressure in the early stages of the laning phase compared to Osiris, Bellona, or Raven.
Either way, Amaterasu still certainly in fineokay's wheelhouse. Can't ban him out. The rookie certainly looking very strong here in his first season. SpaceStation Gaming versus Team Allegiance, game number 2. And it will be the traditional Nemesis jungle. Wukong solo.
And it's going to see an early blink out of Jigz on this game. Really trying to get some of these initiations off with that Cataclysm knock-up combination. Like we mentioned before, andinster didn't have the best setup in the world in game number 1, but now building older tools around the Scylla pick.
I like that. I actually like the ripple effects that some of the relic changes have had. When you look towards Meditation and Shell, they get better as the game goes on. So at level 1, they're not exactly fantastic options, which allows you to blink without giving too much up.
Already, andinster, you're looking at the way he started off this game, taking away some of these speed buff ogres while the rest of SpaceStation are invading the blue. They're only starting off normal here, sacrificing a little bit of gold under his own tier 1 mid tower, but look at this rotation from Allegiance.
Homiefe on the highly mobile jungler. Any other pick likely gets stuck there.
Even with the speed buff coming out of Weekend here, Susano providing so much mobility with that passive. Great juke away from that Spirit Ball, the slice and dice, the slow. Wing Gust able to catch up. Jetstream was just not up for Homiefe in time.
Nice chase down by ALG. NeiruMah takes out Jigz in the classic support v support matchup.
What?
I joke a little bit.
How does that happen on the left? I can understand how Homiefe dies without having speed buff on the right, but for a Geb to die this early on, now granted, he does have Blink, which is not a great defensive tool.
You just get stuck in the wave so often here. You get so stuck in the wave. Nice long-range Spirit Ball. Andy just barely going to avoid it. Metyankey taking a ton of damage on Homiefe. Actually forced into the Aegis. don't even think it was necessary. So a big win for Homie there.
Homiefe, even at level 2 on the Susano, can still pump out the damage. Stormkata and Jetstream must be respected. With the addition of Bluestone Pendant, it makes it so easy to lock down this Isis in mid.
Very quick 1,000 gold lead for ALG, all for their first blood and then some. Just 2 minutes in, 1,000 gold, that's a big deal. We've spoke a lot about the late game lack of gold importance when it's because of the itemization choices here. The first team to finish boots can win the first team fight. That's such a big deal. Later on, it's less about the fact that you have more gold, and it's just about the items that you purchase with that gold lead. He who reaches boots first wins.
That's what I definitely would have to agree with you, because whenever you have those boots, it matches the timing window of the respawns of the reds, the speeds, and if you can invade those buffs the second time in a row, that's when the snowball starts to occur a little bit. And already this game, with 2 kills on Team Allegiance, the pacing has increased already. The action is just kicked up.
And I mean, that's to be expected with the characters that are in the game. I think Nemesis and Susano kind of keep the game going at a faster pace, but I mean, absolutely, this Team Allegiance wants to play fast and loose. That's kind of what they're about. And so they're forcing SpaceStation to kind of play at their tempo here.
It just seems that the first game, both teams were kind of feeling each other out now, but now everyone is very comfortable in the second game already. With SpaceStation winning that last game, they're sitting tied at first place with 11 points between themselves, Luminosity, and Trifecta. Allegiance, they still have 8 points. They could walk away with a split here, putting them at 9, but if they lose this set here, things are going to be looking really dicey for them in the last week of action.
CycloneSpin just saying hi. It's fineokay, and his jungler are able to take away those fire demon portal gremlin guys. Homiefe over here trying to deal with a whole different type of gremlin. It's Metyankey, it's CycloneSpin, it's NeiruMah, it's Wukong. It's 4 separate players from ALG just putting down the jungler. Homiefe dies for the second time in 4 minutes and loses his speed buff.
Only having boots 1 at the time being, Allegiance are just so good about whenever they play aggressive and knowing the timing windows. The opening strategy that SpaceStation had was completely countered from the get-go. Andinster starting those speed ogres into his midwave allowed Allegiance to invade speed after the midwave and then prevent the blue buff invade from transitioning into a speed buff invade, and they just got fortunate to catch Homiefe down that mid lane.
And the lead for Allegiance just keeps spiraling out of control. 4:30, just only 4.5 minutes in. Team Allegiance almost at a 2,000 gold lead. What is it, a 1,500? That's a large lead for this moment in time, and I can't stress that enough at how quickly Allegiance is starting this one off.
As long as that they're able to still continue this, the next 2 to 2.5 minutes, once that speed buff respawns for Homiefe, will dictate if Team Allegiance can snowball this early game lead. Already a 1-level advantage for Wukong, which is not a very common thing for him to get a lead. Even when he plays, no, seriously, whenever he plays aggressive, sometimes he lacks farm, but not this game. They're able to pick up the mid waves.
That's actually very true. Wukong a lot of times find himself down below because he's looking for the ganks and looking to set up his teammates instead of actually killing what's there on the map. So, like you said, a rare lead for Wukong here could easily allow his team to step up, and that's been sort of the motif or the theme for Team Allegiance here in the summer split. Wukong, I mean, I said it on, you know, I do that SPL happen thing. I said it on episode 1 or 2, just like, Wukong did it, and they win the game. And there's so many examples of that this split where if Wukong does it, ALG does it. And it's been a nice growth process because now we're seeing Metyankey does it, and the other players are doing it, and it's not just Wukong. So now that we have Wukong doing it, and the other players are going to step up as well, now you're talking about a real team.
He's able to facilitate the action in his team's favor because of the shutting down of Homiefe. It trickles down into the other lanes as well. Andinster just now barely hitting level 7. We're going to see Metyankey hit level 8 first. CycloneSpin has been level 9 for quite a bit here, and with all these speed buff invades that CycloneSpin's been able to assist in and also finding that kill, he hits level 10, having that 2-level advantage over the Amaterasu.
Big ultimate out of Jigz, setting up Andinster. 3-player Cataclysm, 1 player I'm a monster, and he gonna deal damage to NeiruMah after the fact. Not enough to find the kill, but SpaceStation Gaming finally found themselves on the board at the 6th minute, thanks to a fantastic setup by Jigz. What a play.
Such a great execution out of the support here, just blinking in, setting up andinster. We were talking about the lack of initiation for SpaceStation Game 1. Definitely not the case here in Game 2.
I mean, the Blink Cataclysm, classic initiation. And as I said, the lack of other options, CycloneSpin by himself goes ahead and nabs the speed buff. But that's the play you have to make because you want to keep that lead that you've started.
Already, though, not wanting to commit for CycloneSpin, really fearful that Goldfear was going to get started by Team Allegiance. Looks like it's being threatened, but these Oracles are kind of getting in the way a little bit.
It's just the Oracles that Allegiance are after. The Gold Fury is getting in the way there. But again, I love the play of CycloneSpin because again, it's the butterfly effect here.
And he even used the Tiger Stun to be able to secure that speed buff. Normally, if you want to try to be really sneaky, you'll use the Ox for the damage and to be able to continue past the opposition to maybe get out of jail, but still very confident that he would be able to escape with his ultimate. And worst come to worst, if they commit while CycloneSpin's in the air to the kill of the Sun Wukong, then the rest of Allegiance is definitely getting the Gold Fury.
It's just so important to keep the jungle to keep the enemy jungle camps in your favor. It is a butterfly effect here. You can see, look at the net worth. Bottom is going to be Susano, second only to the Geb. And the reason, so he's got nothing in the jungle, right? Which means Susano is going to be behind. We'll hold this conversation for a moment, totally. Gold Fury started.
Not too much vision, though. SpaceStation didn't really quite see it.
Oh, fineokay. Homie just walked directly into 5 members of ALG. They allowed him to teleport there.
Yeah, they wanted to find the kill. They were not worried about securing the Gold Fury. This early on, Gold Fury gives a little bit of gold, but it's not at its fullest potential. Cyclone's been doing a good job zoning out while the rest of his team is able to get the gold.
Yeah, Homiefe has no shot in there either. Gold Fury goes the way of Team Allegiance, continuing their reign of terror. And again, it has so much to do with how dominant Allegiance has been in the enemy jungle. Listen, real quick, by taking the jungle away from the opposition, Homiefe has to find farm elsewhere. He's not able to help his teammates by going and finding ganks because he's behind, so he has to find farm, so he takes it from another player's lane, which puts them both behind, etc., etc., etc. Team Allegiance, they've taken Homiefe out of the game.
But the thing is, Susano from behind is not the worst case situation for SpaceStation. He can still easily find some setup, and he's going to be a slippery snake as he tries to guide through some of these team fights. It's so hard to lock down a Susano that has Jetstream to be able to get away, the third strike of the Storm Kata, and then his passive for that 4% mobility per stack.
Yeah, I mean, he's so quick. You're absolutely correct. fineokay gonna dance around weekend. No big deal. Say hello to Father Giant over there. Happy Fire Giant Day, everybody. It's a Fire Giant Day today here. June something. It's a Sunday, right? That's how it works.
Sounds about right.
Sounds about right. But no, seriously, thank you for joining us here on this Father's Day. Jake's going to be in trouble. Finds 2 players with the stun. No setup there. More of a defensive ultimate than not. The Legion still dominance. Look at the ward vision on the speed buff. Just making sure. Yeah, homie, you got 1. That's all you're getting. Allegiance are going to be there the next time that spawns.
But still not able to really press on beyond the speed buff. They're trying to think about going for this tier 1 tower on the right-hand side, but SpaceStation, they're more content about letting this one go and then just securing their own blue?
It's going to be trouble for andinster. Oh my goodness. CycloneSpin gets credit, but that was all Metyankey. Big damage out of the spirit, out of the wing gust there. CycloneSpin now under the tower. That's the real CycloneSpin. Just kidding.
Will the real CycloneSpin please stand up? Granted, he's at the portal demon though.
And he's gonna go help his team out. All right, Totally, I like that one. You finally got one.
I got one.
Portal demon this time around. Pop, pop. And Metyankey able to secure that one.
This is the way teams need to start building off of their momentum a little bit. You find the first invade off of the speed buff. You find ways to slowly build your advantage by warding the opposition's jungle and looking for these rotations. If they're on the right, you think about like, okay, can we clear out our waves in mid and soloing to collapse on the speed? No, all right, let them get speed. Maybe we'll invade the red buff next time around. We'll keep things mixed up and keep them guessing. Right now,
Team Allegiance, they need to guess. Looks like they have every answer to the test. 32,000 gold to SpaceStation Gaming's 28K. SpaceStation in game number 1 wound up taking the game, but honestly not easily. Team Allegiance really put up a fight. And here, Allegiance, the problem was Allegiance couldn't get off to a start, and it felt like they were always playing catch-up to SpaceStation. This time around, they keep Susano, more importantly, Homiefe, out of the game early on, which allows Allegiance to make their stride forward.
But left-hand side, CycloneSpin engaging. Nice root crush combination. Going to see a lot of damage onto CycloneSpin. He's going to eventually have to go into the sky, but a nice Cataclysm is going to keep andinster up.
It's all about the stall. Oceans gets the kill on the Jigz, and fineokay being handled by Metyankey in the jungle there. 60% on the Amaterasu after the heal.
Not able to play defense here. SpaceStation, they're going to retreat and give up another tier 1 tower. They already gave up a Gold Fury, and there's going to be a second tier 1 tower. Nice and comfortable 4,000 gold lead thus far. It's about to be 4,500.
Metyankey looks so comfortable on this Isis. I don't think I've seen him look more comfortable on a character since the transition to mid lane, Tolly.
He's looking a lot more solid this time around. Whenever the early game goes in the way of Team Allegiance, they're really able to just build up their momentum. And with an Isis player, that's what you're really looking for. There's damage already on Nemesis. You're looking for more control out of your mid-mage. Right. Go Isis.
And it's just, I like watching a player. It's just the confidence in the abilities. Metyankey, he shoots at the spirit balls. He understands where his ultimate's going to go. Just so much more understanding, so much more comfort on this Isis than some of the other picks. And rarely is he challenged about it. You know, I mean, it doesn't get banned out because nobody wants to be the team banning the Isis against Metyankey. But at the end of the day, I mean, he plays this character at such a higher level versus the other choices that, you know, it's very curious to me that we don't see bans.
Oh, nice play from NeiruMah, using that monolith to absorb andinster hits. Also absorbing that root out of him, not able to really secure that sentry ward, so losing that 120 gold.
You can see the shift of focus from Team Allegiance here. Early game, it was all about keeping the speed buff down. Well, now SpaceStation Gaming have 2 speed buffs. Ever since that 10-minute mark, Team Allegiance have taken their vision off of the enemy jungle and more just made it about the neutral objectives. Portal Demon has been a big deal. Obviously, the Gold Fury ALG took earlier on, but now their game seems to be, all right, Susano, we stopped that early game. Mid-game, he can do the mid-game thing. We're not really going to, we can't really prevent that, but we can absolutely prevent the early game. That's what they do. They prevent the early game Susano from being early game Susano, and now they're in the mid-game, they shift their focus elsewhere. Just very analytical play coming out from ALG.
Jigz engaging with a nice double Cataclysm. The knock-up to follow up, but just trying to bait out some relics. Fine, okay. Diving the backline, forcing out the circle of protection.
And Weekend's going to be safely inside of it, just so he gets a little bit of a heal. Metyankey as well. The shield's going to absorb the majority of the crush, and that's a lot of what SpaceStation Gaming had to offer. And he has a monster. He's running away with it. Gets hit by Cyclone. Cyclone actually walks into it. You're welcome, Andy, for the extra damage, but CycloneSpin don't really care.
So level 16 Sun Wukong with Hide of the Urchin sitting at 1
the
stack.
Dash interrupted.
Fine, okay. He's going to eat the Tiger Stone as well, taking a little bit of poke, but a level 14 Amaterasu with Breastplate of Valor has enough cooldown reduction to be able to spam that Aura stance switch to regain her health.
And just stay zooming. Fine, okay. Gonna stay safe under the tower until he gets stunned from a distance by an Isis and put in the ground by a Cernunnos. 7-1 Team Allegiance as they strike down the tier 1 tower.
Oh, the double root into the crush. Nice little retribution shield from Weekend, but they're forced to funnel back towards the left. Homiefe finding a nice double pull. It's Metyankey is gonna fall.
Great play out of Homiefe, just understanding one target only. And he had to get back at Metyankey for just helping out with all those jungle steals.
It just seems that both teams are slipping up to slightly in their positioning. fineokay put himself between that tier 1 tower and the wall, giving him no wiggle room. It's so easy to just throw out a spirit ball and you're guaranteed to hit it. Terra's going to clap those walls as well, and there's nowhere for the Amaterasu to go.
Just nowhere. It was rough stuff there. Rough, as a dog would say. I don't know if it was funny, the footsteps that you hear of Homiefe. I thought you could audibly hear Tolly tapping his foot because he was sort of staring at me, just tapping his foot. I gotta give credit where credit's due, though. That's Moji's, one of my favorite people. That's Moji's. She's been saying that for a number of years now. I steal it every chance I get.
The flock is too strong in this one. Jigz gonna blink on in the crush to follow up.
See you later.
The monster is andinster.
Oh, we'll see you later. Andy off to a tear, hits NeiruMah with the ultimate. Doesn't hurt nearly as much as it did Metyankey, who finds 2 deaths in quick succession. Very unfortunate.
This is the way andinster has been performing so well in game number 1, just waiting for those right opportunities. The crush is starting to come online now with these pen items complete. Now working towards the obsidian shard. Vetium going to get caught out against Wukong a little bit here, trying to deny him some farm.
Here's the thing, though, Tolly, is that, yeah, Metyankey is dying, but SpaceStation can't do anything with it. The Gold Fury is there, but SpaceStation can't really go for the Gold Fury because there are still other options that Allegiance have to really disrupt if they choose to go for the objective. I mean, you have CycloneSpin and Wukong, just to name a few. Everybody in Allegiance can really kind of mess up your idea.
andinster having no mana. He has to back to base to be able to get ready for this next team fight. And with Metyankey reviving and andinster not having his ultimate or much mana for this team fight, it's going to allow them to start the gold.
Oceans to the sky, can't get it. ALG able to secure their Gold Fury. Nice and easy. Metyankey dies, and that just delays the Gold Fury an extra minute. That's it.
If you can sacrifice your life to bait out 3 ultimates for that 1 kill, the timing at this stage of the game against the level 13 ISIS outweighs those long ultimate cooldowns.
It's a very, very big point there. Portal Demon started up. Team Allegiance here. They're going to go leash it and allow fineokay to dash out to the right side. Portal Demon picked up one more time by ALG. Jigz is there, finds the knockup, finds the ultimate. Wukong's going to get hit by Andy's ultimate. Homiefe cleans it up on the back line. Portal Demon picked up by
CycloneSpin, stole it with the Master's Will, and then he just walks away.
50 mana. 50 mana. That's all it took. 50 mana. Team Allegiance still keep it up. Their objective plays 6,000 gold in the lead. ALG.
They still got what they came for. Right-hand side, though, CycloneSpin not able to defend his tier 1 tower on the right side, but able to bully Homiefe on out there. And despite the Susano being behind a little bit, whenever you have that much damage in setup between Jigz on the Geb and andinster on the Scylla, you're able to keep the Susano on the back line and wait for somebody to retreat and then play cleanup crew.
Exactly. He's just kind of a lurker, as they use in other game genres, where he's just kind of hanging out on the back line, waiting for somebody, you know, a little bit wounded, and then snap. You're pulled. You're absolutely not getting away from the tornado vortex that is Homiefe's Susano. So nice placement coming out from Homiefe, allowing the rest of his team to sort of do the dirty work.
A nice little trap again onto Wukong, getting pulled into it, forced to dash away here. Speed buff will get secured for Homiefe. Very important for the Susano to be able to ping pong everywhere across the map.
Yeah, Susano already highly mobile, giving him the speed buff just forces the issue.
Especially with this wing blade. You cannot outrun this Susano unless you're, even with Amaterasu's movement speed to follow up.
I bet you Rock can outrun him.
You know who can't outrun him?
Who, totally?
Stone Cold Steve Harvey.
It wasn't even, I mean, there wasn't even an opening. I
just forced the issue.
Yes, you did. That's not something to be proud of, Tolly. That's not so, oh man, Tully. Team Allegiance here. That's all I got, Tully.
Well, SpaceStation They don't got the Portal Demon. They're thinking about the Fire Giant with the Aura from fineokay.
Just the raw start?
They're going to force the Terra's Blessing.
Yeah, it's a TP.
Here's CycloneSpin on the backhand side, trying to look for the collapse, stunning out fineokay. Metyankey looking for the Spirit Ball, connects onto Jigz. Quite a bit of damage.
CycloneSpin zoned out fineokay. Now it's all about damage on the Jigz. Oceans from the sky, looking at somebody else, and Wukong cleans up the support. Metyankey in trouble, being chased down, but NeiruMah takes out Vetium. And that's going to be a big play coming out from the support, Homiefe chased down by Wukong.
I'm surprised that we saw SpaceStation really trying to go for that Fire Giant so early on in the game. Now, granted, it is 21 minutes. We've seen earlier Fire Giants, but all 5 members were up from Team Allegiance. And not only that, they were relatively close towards that objective. And they also had 2 Sentry Wards, one above that right side mid-harpy and one at the blue of SpaceStation. That teleport from CycloneSpin was so clutch.
It was such an important teleport. Team Allegiance also pick up the tier 2 tower here in the mid lane, opening up the map and netting them 1,500 more gold, pushing their lead up to 8,507 gold.
It's a lot of gold.
Pretty accurate.
Very accurate. Good thing we have the graphs here.
Oh, are the graphs there? I wasn't reading them.
Oh, sure. Nice try, guy. That's the best would say.
Is that what the best would say?
Yeah.
What do you know about the best?
He lives in Minnesota.
Actually, how long did you play with the best?
I want to say about a year and a half or 2 years.
Yeah, I was going to say about 2 years, totally. A very, you know, long time play there.
He's a goofy little kid. I love him.
A lot of the players, a lot of the long-time players here in our scene have really grown up and sort of become a staple of the scene. Andy, and not even Jigz or Vetium, honestly. Andinster, really the lone member on SpaceStation, really there from minute 1 here of the Smite scene. Looking across the way on Team Allegiance, CycloneSpin pretty much it.
CycloneSpin getting between a rock and a hard place, but he's going to be able to regain some health in that cloud. Terra's Blessing also popped just for good measure, so still, despite being behind almost 10,000 gold, SpaceStation are looking for these offensive plays.
You got to stay aggressive here in Smite, totally. We always talk about how the gold, we break it down all the time, how the gold difference is really not as impactful as you might think, especially after the fact. Right now, this gold difference is actually kind of deceptive because this is one of the key moments where ALG actually do have the upper hand. Tahuti finished on the mage versus the other player.
Fire Giant being started by SpaceStation.
They're looking for the fight here. They're just looking for the bait.
They're wanting to really go for this, though, surprisingly enough. They haven't always been so successful in some of these team fights, but because we can use his ultimate along with CycloneSpin and NeiruMah, that's a huge power spike window for SpaceStation.
That's exactly when they need it, because as I noted, you have Chinsai finished on the Cernunnos, you have the Fatalis finished on the Nemesis, you have the Rod of Tahuti finished on the mid-mage. These are your power spike items. This is when the lead for Allegiance is perhaps most noticeable and most important.
Very important for CycloneSpin to continue to hit Jigz with the Bluestone Pendant to stop him from being able to blink in. I'm a monster connects onto Metyankey, the snipes from Vetium to execute.
Nice setup for the mid lane mage. Unfortunately for him, not going to find the kill, so no reset on that. I'm a monster, but a perfect use of team intricacies there. CycloneSpin caught out the one-man cataclysm, but he has a free life. Oh well.
The ultimate just barely coming back into it for CycloneSpin. He's able to bait out a number of cooldowns, but without Metyankey here, a 5-on-4 for SpaceStation getting the Portal Demon. I wouldn't be surprised if they start to back on out of here and really go for the Fire Giant.
SpaceStation Gaming, so adept at playing from behind. They're down 7,000 gold, and you couldn't tell.
Not at all. They're just constantly pulling the Fire Giant 5-on-5. No one's dead from Team Allegiance, and there's just such a gold advantage for them on the side of the Chaos Squad. Now starting to diminish to 5,500 after this second gold, or first gold here for SpaceStation.
Man, just interesting plays from SpaceStation here. Just being hyper-aggressive for no reason.
They know what they can and can't get away with. They see that Andinster has that power spike of this Rod of Tahuti. The Spirit of Desolation is able to really catch some of these Allegiance members slipping.
There's going to be the push forward. Wukong very low and chased on by Homiefe, saved by NeiruMah. Nice route there.
Wanted Metyankey so badly. They're not able to really catch him there. He doesn't have that extra 70% movement speed from that maxed out ultimate quite yet until he is level 20. So not able to catch up to that wing goddess.
Metyankey headed back to base, and Allegiance will have 4 players here to defend, but the Fire Giant still not started by SpaceStation, still trailing by about 6,000, able to shave off K off the lead.
Still looking for some sort of offensive play here around the right side of the map. Picking up the speed up for Homiefe. We keep talking about Homiefe Susano, how he got shut down, but now he's able to catch up to the level of Weekend and still make the impacts happen.
I mean, it's the next chapter, and it's very easy to sort of just get shut down for the entirety of the game, but being able to bounce back, especially when you look at a character like Susano, you mentioned Susano's a character that can kind of function from behind. He's still going to get the pulls, still going to have a team fight changing ultimate with the Typhoon, right? So the early game, look, he just wasn't there. But he showed up fashionably late, and now he's in Act 2 and Act 3. And he's going to be able to successfully do that. And look at his player damage. He's number 2 on his team, 4 overall. That's all mid-game damage. He basically he had 0 impact in the early game. But that's over. That's yesterday. Now it's today, and we're looking at the mid-game.
He's been involved in 100% of the kills from SpaceStation, getting 2 kills, 3 assists, able to really make an impact despite the slow start. Dying first is not something you really want to do as a jungler, but being involved in Smite SPL career for as long as Homiefe has, he knows about how to bounce back, and SpaceStation knows about how to pull this Fire Giant.
Ultimate onto Vetium, and the Fire Giant likely to be leashed soon. Weekend low, and shots in the sky from Oceans. Looking on the back line, fineokay does well off of that Vetium, off of that Vetium assist. Homiefe now in trouble.
Andinster looking for the monster. 2! Looking for a third one potentially, but it's Vetium in a little bit of trouble in the back line.
Ooh, tries to go for it. Looks a little bit in the future. Can't find the kill with Amaterasu. Homiefe cleans up. Oh, man, right there. 4 players down. SpaceStation Gaming down almost 7,000 gold. And a single mid-lane mage. You know, Tully, I'm going to give you a breakthrough piece of analysis here.
I'm waiting for it, Tom.
You know that in one team fight, Scylla can change the course of a game?
No.
Just with a single ultimate?
How?
If he gets the kill, it resets and waterfalls into multiple players. And so, for example, if a team is down 7,000 gold, and the Scylla finds, I don't know, 2 kills, 3 kills off of a monster, the game can completely turn around and give that team not just the team fight, but the stuff after the stuff in the objective, and when the objective's Fire Giant, all of the structures that they choose to go for.
Wow.
All in one team fight.
Just wow. What a goddess.
One ability.
Wow. I like Scylla.
We very rarely talk about that, so. You like numbers too, don't you, Tony?
I like numbers.
Anatoly is such a unique individual. I like how I'm talking about him like he's not even here. And he enjoys it. SpaceStation Gaming with the turnaround of the split, perhaps. Team Elite were running this game from minute 1, and SpaceStation Gaming never once thought they were out of it. Played with the same headstrong attitude down 7,000 that they did when they were neck and neck in game number 1. That, to me, is the most impressive part. Yeah. And instead of playing his face off, getting the team fight win into this exchange, sure, that's all well and good. But it's how strong SpaceStation looked in the face of adversity.
CycloneSpin can't even get into the cloud. Andinster taking him out, completely diving the backline, catching NeiruMah, finding him with Monster, but he's a tanky guardian, not able to take him out for that execute. And in a 5-on-4 without CycloneSpin for 45 seconds, they're going to be able to get this tier 2 on the right, and I wouldn't be surprised if they get at least 1 Phoenix.
Andy just walking to the right side saying, take this jungle buff. Just going to go ahead and deal with the tower as well. Very similar build to what we saw before. Polynomicon not online just yet. Likely to be the last and final item here after the penetration.
A lot of patience from SpaceStation, not going for a Phoenix with CycloneSpin dead. They didn't want to, I guess, aggress without a minion wave. There was no minions coming anytime soon on that right-hand side.
Portal Demon goes to wave SpaceStation as well. Not only do they tie the game, but they take the lead. Gold Fury is going to push that even more so. And boy, that is an illustration. Game completely controlled by ALG for almost a full half hour. And then just like that, in one team fight,
they were down
with one ultimate, the game changes, turns around.
They were down
because of one god.
What god?
One ultimate.
What god was it? Tom, I gotta know. What god was it? Was it her?
Kukulkan.
It was the Scylla, wasn't it? Wow. What a goddess.
You drive me batty. fineokay leading the charge here. Such a strong leader here. Whether it's in-game or not, he's always leading with his body language, being that solo leader up front, allowing his team to capitalize off to the fact, but Jigz in trouble. Big ultimate on him and a lot of attention paid to the Geb. There's going to be the counter initiation coming out from Team Allegiance, and we saw them play defense before when they did not have the lead.
Here come the snipes from Vetium. Weakened very low. One connects, but the second and third just out of range. Retribution shield was available just for good measure. Jigz not taking the fire giant, but eats that spirit ball to the face. Finally, SpaceStation get what they came for, that middle Phoenix, and with fire giant for 20 more seconds, they're gonna back on out here, wanting to reset, maybe strip away some of these buffs, start warding around that right side of the map, and look to close this one out.
Yeah, this one even still is just up in the air. SpaceStation Gaming kind of have the driver's seat, right? But Team Allegiance, they showed us last game how strong their defensive set can be. I mean, Andy gets, again, it's a Scylla play, right? The waterfall last game is what allows SpaceStation Gaming to finally penetrate and get through to ALG. If ALG are able to control Andy here, I mean, this is still their game.
The question is, how do they start penetrating now? Because at the 32-minute mark, Wukong is not the easiest god to penetrate any longer. His power spike window has left the window. He's going to start to diminish, whereas fineokay, he only gets better with that aura, that mobility, and the damage that he amplifies his team with. It makes it so much more impactful, and CycloneSpin is going to have a rough time, along with Weekend, to get to andinster.
Yeah, I mean, CycloneSpin's just looking to play Disruptor. He wants to find multiple knockups, multiple slows, kind of keeping the enemy at bay.
Trying to find the speed buff invade. Nice Spirit Ball is going to not prevent or not allow Homiefe to get that speed buff. Still looking for a fire giant, though, is SpaceStation. Team Allegiance, though, are going to probably look to contest this one.
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely something they have to fight into, Anatoly. Fire giant going to be started here. fineokay. Team Allegiance, our logo, CycloneSpin right here.
Trying to find it here. It's going to leash out the fire giant for a little bit. Still at 50% health. Still hitting Vetium along the way. CycloneSpin is going to start to engage.
He hits 2-3 players with a monster, setting up Jigz for the double kill on Geb. fineokay cleans up NeiruMah. 3 players down. Metyankey, CycloneSpin, the lone defenders. Mid Phoenix already down, Toli.
They don't need fire giant when they have andinster playing Scylla. The game 1 went for SpaceStation's way. Game 2, they were down, but they were not out. They're gonna clean this one up and get 3 points to the bank.
Really impressive play. CycloneSpin able to capitalize off of the ultimate from Metyankey. Just barely, not enough. You know, I think if Team Allegiance have one other player up, whoever it is, they defend that Titan.
Very possible.
Well, a big deal there. Fantastic stuff out of SpaceStation Gaming. But again, I gotta tip my hat to ALG.
Absolutely. ALG, they had the lead in game number 2, but they couldn't hold on to it. andinster playing the Scylla was just doing a great job controlling it with the setup from Jigz on the Geb.
Yeah, and the Scylla, just fantastic stuff out of Andy. I don't think that we see SpaceStation Gaming win game number 2 without Andy on Scylla specifically. And game number 1, I think they can win with Andy on a different player, but just easily set up on the Scylla. Just a fantastic play.
I mean, what could we just say except for Wowie Woo Woo and just start playing Scylla?
I mean, it's just, listen, man, that Scylla, one team fight can change the course.
Wow.
Let's talk to the real analysts. It's LHS and whoever he's with.
Welcome back to The Analyst. I am indeed LHS, and this is Taco. You might know her.
I don't know who that last guy was,
Yeah,
though.
I don't know. Some scrub, you know? Joining us on the desk, we've got Jigz from SpaceStation Gaming. Jigz, how you doing?
Hey, it's not Jigz, but what's up?
Oh, what's up, Andy? How's it going?
Oh.
Doing good. What's up, guys?
Nice.
Welcome to the show. Andy, not Jigz. How hype are you getting that 2-0 today?
Yeah, that was a pretty sick set. We're pretty excited and nearly secures us for a DreamHack.
Yeah,
And-
you go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask you, how did it feel turning the tides with that Scylla ultimate in that second game?
Yeah, we got like probably 3 or 4 Geb Scylla combos in a row, which was pretty sick. A lot of it was set up by Jigz though, so.
So even with this 2-0, you're not quite out of the woods yet. You still aren't clinched for that spot for Valencia. Looking forward to next week. Like, what is your priority here?
Qualify.
Ask a stupid question, get a stupid answer, I guess, right?
I mean, honestly, though, you guys have been looking really solid the past couple of weeks. I think that you guys have cleaned up your gameplay pretty significantly. And really, I think that can be attributed to what I would assume to be clean comms as well.
Yeah, a lot of it is just losing in scrims over and over and over, and then just reviewing and just getting better over time, I guess. Still got a long way to go, though.
You guys have definitely improved. I mean, you guys kind of struggled a little bit in our spring split, but now you've really found your way in the summer split. How confident are you, presuming you guys do qualify for Valencia, going up against this strong EU region?
Right now, I'd say that EU is probably favored to take it. I think in general, like, people assume that NA has no chance versus EU. I don't really think that's true. I'd say they're favored to take this land, but if we work hard and like sort out all our problems, I think we might have a small chance.
So when Baskin said earlier that NA kind of just sucks right now, would you disagree with that?
EU's definitely favored, but I don't know about sucks.
All right, you got to cover your own base, right? So you got any shout-outs for us before we let you go?
Yeah, of course. Shout out to SpaceStation, our new sponsor. They're awesome. You should check them out on Twitter and all that. And shout out to all my teammates for doing great. And shout out to all the fans.
All right, thanks for joining us, and good luck going forward next week with your qualifying matches.
Thank you.
Let's take a look at SpaceStation versus ALG. What a fight this was. We had them, brawling it out. These were 2 very long games, and they were both kind of decided by decisive team fights.
I think that was kind of a heartbreaking set if I'm Allegiance as well as the ALG fans. They did the absolute best that they could, I would say, in game number 2. Just incredibly unfortunate how andinster came up really clutch on that Scylla. You can tell that he's not feeling like a rookie in that mid lane position anymore. He has certainly warmed up, and the same could be said really for the rest of this roster. We've gone over it time and time again, but their synergy's been unreal lately.
It really has. If we take a look at that first game, we got to look at the Fire Giant fight for being the deciding factor for what really turned that game.
And again, it's just absolutely nuts how much of an impact a Scylla can still have. And ultimately, I think Andy kind of hit the nail on the head. I mean, he said that a lot of this was just set up from Jigz, and I would have to agree. You can't pull off these insane plays if you don't have a very strong mid lane, if you don't have a very strong support behind it.
Are people sleeping on the Geb right now? I mean, we've seen him kind of rise up the last couple weeks with, being picked more, but are we still people underutilizing the Geb right now?
I don't think anybody's underutilizing it. I think that it's kind of just a risk versus reward factor, and with the Geb, you kind of need a team that's really well coordinated in order to make it flourish past that early stage.
All right, looking now, we've got Homiefe on the screen. On this Susano, he didn't really have the greatest of early starts to this, but then towards the, as Tom said, the second act or the third act, he showed up in a big way.
This is such a classic pick for Homiefe. Anytime he's permitted to get the Susano, 9 out of 10 times he's opting for it, and I think that really just plays back to the fact that he can choose whether he wants to be aggressive or a little bit more passive on this god, but typically all he's really looking for is the aggression combined with setting up Andy in that mid lane, which is something I think he was really able to accomplish on the Susano today.
Just SpaceStation Gaming looking really strong as a team as a whole. Going back to the start of the day, we had Team AI versus Team Noble. That was an interesting game.
That set again was kind of the make it or break it point for both of these teams. Unfortunately for both of them, making that split happen means that neither side's really going to have a chance to qualify for Valencia any longer. But at the same time, it was still an interesting set to watch because I think that it showed that AI has those flickers of hope that it's a roster that could potentially stick together if they choose to do so and reap some benefits. But it goes both ways. Noble kind of just turned things back around in game number 2.
These two rosters kind of remind me of each other just because of the way that they can have these pop-offs, but then they also have these games where they're starved for making the plays. If we look at game number 1, the kind of deciding factor was the early Gold Fury fight. This game was a longer game, but the tone was really set after this.
And this also plays into, there's actually a fun stat that's been happening or talked about a lot here. It's that the first team to secure that Gold Fury at the start is typically the team that wins with like an 86% win-loss. So that first Gold Fury has been incredibly impactful, and I think that a large portion of that is due to the fact that there have just been team fights ensuing around this objective. So if you're picking up a couple of kills and then picking up that extra gold in hand, all that burst is just helping teams pretty much get ahead.
I don't know about a fun fact. That's definitely a fact, but not very fun if you're on the the receiving end of losing that objective.
I can definitely see how that one can go. And I think we all know the story of what happened in game number 2. Unfortunately for Chapo, it's probably going to be a moment he will never forget.
Is this going to be Chapo's like 667 moment?
It might. I think that it's kind of just one of those circumstances where this is actually just something you don't ever really predict to happen. It's just that moment of instant regret as soon as it does happen.
This was all calculated by MLC though, right?
I think he wanted to kill Divios, and he ended up just killing Chapo alongside of it. And that, again, was kind of just a distinguishing factor for what went wrong for AI in game number 2. It's really hard to bounce back from that. I mean, I don't think Tilt was necessarily a major impact for it, but it is a little devastating to morale, I'm sure, whenever your jungler gets a sick ult. And really, I can't fault Chapo too much for going in there, because you have to consider if he lands that ultimate and doesn't die to the Kukulkan ultimate because he stops MLC from popping it, he had the best wrapping around with that Scylla and also the Terra, so he just needed a little bit longer to get off that Thor wall, and that could have been a completely different scenario.
I mean, I said it earlier, you live by the Chapo and you die by the Chapo. When things go right, they go really right, but when things go south, things go south.
Things went really south.
All right, moving on, we've got Luminosity and Trifecta. This was also another great game to watch. These two teams both battling for that spot in Valencia.
And now, again, with neither side picking up the clean 2-0 either direction, it still leaves NA pretty much wide open. I wouldn't be surprised to see tiebreakers start to come through in the closing week for week number 5, just because with 11 points each, due to that set being a split, it's just nuts, really.
So we had Snoopy bring out the Apollo again. He had his haters who said that he only got ahead on the Apollo because of his team, but then he showed that he can play this Apollo whether or not his team is actively getting him ahead.
Oh, I think that Snoopy did an excellent job in just ensuring those last hit kills. I brought it up on the cast earlier, and really, his map awareness, that's what you need to have if you're going to pick the Apollo, and that's exactly what he had.
And then in game 2, you've got Mask, who just showed up in a big way.
And I mean, again, it's kind of hard to watch, or it's kind of hard to play a God 1 game and it not work out, and then you just run it back in the next. And Mask knew that Susano wasn't necessarily the issue for this first game that Luminosity fell victim to. They kind of just fell super far behind. Their comp lacked a little bit of synergy. Game number 2, he found it, and he was really just the catalyst for Luminosity. And both sides, both games, was just one way or the other. There was really no in between. It's kind of just been the story like that for NA all along. It's just black and white.
NA, that's just been all over the place. No team has really been able to find and really grab the foothold of being the #1 team. I mean, Luminosity had it for a while, but now they've been slowing down. They've lost their first step. And being of a watcher, you can't really see why that is. They're not really doing anything that different.
And again, I think that's also just related to the fact that this is kind of the building split, maybe even the building season for North America. And I think that these teams really just need a little bit more time to kind of just grow and develop together, which will really be the determining factor for, I would say, look more towards Worlds, if anything, to see how far NA is willing to come. But that's way down the line, and we're still in today. And I mean, Luminosity was still a great set against Trifecta. I think that both those teams kind of still are definitely in play for Valencia. And the same can be said for the set that came right after that. E United versus Flashpoint. It went the direction that we expected it to, but E United needed the set.
United definitely needed that clean 2-0, and they got it. Polar Bear Mike looked really great. I know he wasn't exactly the happiest with his own performance, but he played well, and his team played around very well around him. You look at the jungler, you look at Verizio. He played very well. He did what he needed to do. He played the Camazotz. You know, when you're on the bat, it's hard to have a bad game.
No, it's hard to have a bad game, but you still need to land your skill shots if you want that damage to be relevant on the Camazotz. And the aggression that Verizio provided towards this team and just onto Flashpoint was really preventing Flashpoint from staying together as a unit, especially in that game number 1.
And then game number 2, we've said his name a lot when talking about E United. We got Panda Cat making the plays for this E United squad.
He was just popping off on the ROM. There was really no stopping him as soon as he started to get ahead, and this really was the moment that kicked it all off. He was just able to find the clean ult kill onto Sops, and after that, there was just no stopping him.
There really wasn't. Panda Cat's one of these guys where he has these runs where he is like one of the top ADCs playing the game, but then he goes quiet and people kind of forget. They sleep on Panda Cat, and then he comes right back and makes these, you know, these highlight reel plays.
I think that's kind of just E United as a whole. They're a team that can sometimes be left on the back burner, but they've slowly but surely started to work their way up towards the front and center, and now they are definitely a team to keep an eye on for week number 5.
So let's take a look at the standings after today's action. We've got at the top, we've got Luminosity number 2. We've got SpaceStation Gaming taking the lead with 13 points now.
And again, this is kind of a moment of relief for SpaceStation. With 13 points, I believe they only really need a split to ensure that they are locked in for Valencia, because 14 points will sit them above E United. So one more game will be the main determining factor for SpaceStation. Luminosity, Trifecta, E United, all of these teams still completely up in the air. And I think Allegiance might still potentially be in the running. It just depends. I'm not sure on the mathematics of that. I could be completely wrong, but I think that they might just need a little bit of help, somebody to drop some games. I wouldn't be surprised to see tiebreakers coming through for North America next weekend.
I was just about to ask you if you thought we were going to see the tiebreakers. You know, I think you're exactly right. I think, you know, NA has just been, it's going to go down to the wire, and next week is going to be a very interesting week all the way around. But that's it for our broadcast today. Don't forget, we got SCL action tomorrow, and tomorrow is the last day to submit your Odyssey skin concepts to the forums. We'll see you guys next week. Goodbye.